Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. It has happened again. I've been cut and continued on for I think about an hour without realizing that my camera is shut. I don't know what happens. I honestly don't know what happens. But we can't give up. We can't give up. We've got to put the message out there, and I'll carry on from where I left. The discussion for today, we are establishing the connection between the timelines of Daniel chapter 12, the plagues, and the thunders. We want to show from scripture that these events are happening at the same time in the same spaces. And so therefore you can't separate them from one with each other, right? You have to harmonize them. They are interlocked, they are correlated, right? They have different aspects of their roles in the same space, in the same events. So, to put thunders out of the timelines of Daniel 12, to put the plagues out of the timelines of Daniel 12, to put the trumpets, to put the seals out of the timelines of Daniel 12 will be a mistake. Of course, there are certain aspects of prophecy that you may find to have a dual fulfillment, but not exactly the same. But for instance, you have got first papal supremacy in the Dark Ages, and then we are going to have second papal supremacy at the end of time, at the end of the kingdom of Ashatan. Now, within these two supremacies, we have got timelines that are similar. Like you've got 1,260 years of days in the first papal supremacy, and you've got 1,260 literal days, which are rendered as a time times the dividing of time, or rendered as 42 months. So you can see there is a similar number in both Papal Supremacy 1 and in Papal Supremacy number 2, right? There is persecution in Papal Supremacy number 1, but there is also persecution in Papal Supremacy number 2. So these are the things that you may find to be similar in them. So you will find there are some events that might be similar, like they talk of the Lisbon earthquake, they talk of those things that they say stars fell and all that, but that's not pertaining to the end of time. The end of time is when the 7 last plagues are taking place. And it is within the confines of the times of Daniel chapter 12 that these events will take place. So the great earthquake will take place in the 7th plague, right? It cannot be the Lisbon earthquake that is described by others as the great earthquake that is going to happen at the end of time. No, it's not. You can't talk of the 1800s as the end of time. I mean, the time does not end after 1800s. It is far removed from the 2000s that we are in right now. So when we talk of the imminence of the second coming of Yahusha, we are not talking of events that took place outside the timelines of Daniel chapter 12. I want us to understand that. And so, I want to establish the first connection. The first connection I want to establish is the oath found in both the book of Daniel chapter 12 and the book of Revelation chapter 10, which connects the events in both books. So this oath connects the events in the two books. Revelation chapter 10:6 says, "And I swear by him that liveth forever and ever, who created heaven and the things that therein are, and the earth and the things that therein are, and the sea and the things which are therein, that there should be time no longer. Right. Verse 7 goes on to say, but in the days of the voice of the seventh messenger, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of Elohim should be finished, as he has declared to his servants, the prophets. So we are told in the days of the seventh messenger. The seventh messenger is the one that brings the seventh plague, right? So when he brings the seventh plague, the mystery of Elohim should be finished by that time. In other words, the secret things of Yahweh, the revelation of the plan of salvation will be clear to everyone by the time when the seventh last plague is given. So it clearly shows that this oath that we are talking about, it is happening right at the tip of time, right at the extremity of time. So it is located at the very end of time. That's where it is found. Now, we see that this oath in Revelation chapter 10 is echoing another oath that is found in Daniel chapter 12, verse 7. Let's hear what the oath in Daniel chapter 12, verse 7 says. And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and they swear by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times and a half, and when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the Kodesh people, all these things shall be finished. So do you see? Both oaths have an ending or result in the ending of everything, right? And both oaths are rendered to the one who lives forever and ever. In other words, these oaths are being given to the Most High, the creator of heaven and earth. And these oaths have got a time limit, and their time is right at the end. In other words, these oaths are being given in the context of the same time span. Right? These two oaths are echoing each other. Right? The oath sworn in Revelation 10, 6-7 reflects Daniel 12, 6-7, where the messenger clothed in linen swears with his right and left hands towards heaven that there will be a time, 2 times and half a time before the end of the wonders. And Daniel had said these wonders are taking place right at the end, just before the establishment of the kingdom of Yahweh on earth. So the context of the oaths are the same. They are happening at the same time. They are being rendered, these two oaths are being rendered to Yahweh. Let's read Daniel chapter 12, verse 1 to 4. It says here, and at that time shall Mishael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble such as never was, since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. So there is a trouble such as never was that will come at that time, right? And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, some to shame and everlasting contempt. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. So we have in Daniel that this is a time of trouble such as never was, right? And this is echoing what happens in the seven last plagues, right? Such destruction as never was, right? And Daniel is saying the same thing. Already we can pick up a connection here. The extent of the trouble that is revealed in Daniel chapter 12 is the same extent of the trouble that is revealed in the seventh messenger. Right? So if the trouble is the same in character, right? It says such as never was, right? It means it is speaking of the same trouble, right? The trouble in Daniel chapter 12 is the trouble that you find that is spoken of in the 7 last plagues. So the character of the trouble rather makes us see it as the same thing, because it looks identical, right? The trouble in 12 and the trouble of the 7 last plagues are identical. So it means that they are the same. So that is a connection between the timelines of Daniel and the plagues of Revelation. Verse 2 speaks of resurrection, but verse 3 says, and they that be wise shall shine as brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as stars forever and ever. So this is a Hebrew parallelism speaking of the same thing, right? When you share this message to others so that they can come to the truth, you are described as being wise, and you are going to shine like the brightness of the firmament, which is the stars, right? Right. So there is a reward that is going to be given to those that bring others into the kingdom, that show others the light of the kingdom. Verse 4 says, but thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and the knowledge shall be increased. Beloved, there is no time like now. You know, in the years past, we used to write verses, characteristics, we group them, similar verses, or you want to deal about characteristics, put them in hardcovers, so that when you want to prepare a study, you go to your notes in the hardcovers and then read from there, and then compile your study nicely. But these days, we don't have to do that. We have got tools that we can use. You just write the word and boom, it comes as many times as it is found in the scriptures, and the verses are given. You want to find the meaning of the word, you just type that word, go to the Strong's Concordance, you find the meaning of the word. It's so easy to study the scriptures. Knowledge is increasing. In fact, we've got the tools that enable us to have an increased knowledge. And so we are living right at the time when knowledge has increased and people are running to and fro. And there is they say this is a global village. In other words, the connections that we have amongst ourselves is at the is at the click of a button. If you want to talk to someone in Asia, in the Americas, in Africa, wherever, you just call them and you are already connected. So this is how easy life has become as a result of the technological development. But the knowledge that is primarily being addressed here is the knowledge of the truth that is coming as a result of the knowledge of technological knowledge that we are living in with. So, beloved, there is indeed an increase in knowledge in this day and age. Things have become so much accessible. Knowledge, information is readily available to anyone who cares to look for it. But surprisingly, when things are the way they are, people are consumed with many other things. They don't have time to look for proper knowledge, proper information. The things that take us away, that take our minds away, are flimsy things that do not add value to our lives. Those are the things that we spend time glossing over and wasting our precious time looking and watching things that do not ennoble the character. That's what comes with it also. Revelation chapter 10 verse 7. But in the days of the voice of the seventh messenger, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of Elohim should be finished, as he has declared to his servants the prophets. What did the voice of the seventh messenger say or do? Let's read Revelation 16:17. And the seventh messenger poured out his vial into the air, and there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven, from the throne, saying, "It is done." And there were voices and thunders and lightnings, and there was a great earthquake, such as was not since men were upon the earth, so mighty an earthquake and so great. We saw that there is a link or a connection between the thunders and the seven last plagues from this above verse. For he says in Revelation 10:7 says, but in the days of the voice of the seventh messenger. And the seventh messenger is the one found in Revelation chapter 16, who, when he pours his last vial right into the air, right, there is going to be a great earthquake, such as was not since men were upon the earth. Right. So when you look at the seventh messenger, he is he is showing us when these plagues, when these thunders are being given, right? The thunder in Revelation 10:6 and 7 is connected to the seventh messenger, right? So that links up the thunders to the plagues. And we saw that the plagues are also connected to the timelines of Daniel chapter 12, right? And we have already seen that these thunders, they've got an oath, right? Which oath is also echoing an oath in Daniel chapter 12. So the coming of the thunders, right, comes as a result of the oath that is rendered to the Most High. The comings of the times of trouble, or the comings of the times of Daniel chapter 12, is coming after an oath has been rendered to the Most High. Do you see the connection? There is an oath in Revelation chapter 10, there is an oath in Daniel chapter 12. And both oaths have got to do with the events happening right at the edge, at the very end of time. And these oaths are covering the same times that the seven last plagues are happening. So there is a lot of connection that is taking place in these events. You can't separate them. You can't tear them apart. So we can see from the above that there is a link between the great messenger who announces the plagues and the men clothed in linen in Daniel 12, who announces the time of trouble. So the messenger in Daniel 12 and the messenger in Revelation chapter 16, who announces the great plagues, both of them, they are announcing time of trouble such as never was. Right? So in the context of these messages, it means that they are describing the same event. You see the links? They are so intertwined, right? They are so connected, these events. Daniel 12 says, verse 1, and at that time shall Mishael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble such as never was, since there was a nation even to that same time. These links, these connections demand that the plagues must fit in the timelines of Daniel 12, and that the thunders are connected to the seven last plagues. We observed from scripture that the thunders are loud proclamations. And in the case of Revelation chapter 10, these thunders are starting and ending events in the timelines of Daniel chapter 12. So there is these three timelines. These three timelines, the 1335 and the 1290 and 1260. These three timelines are started by loud proclamations. These three timelines are ended by loud proclamations. So the thunders are they that start the three timelines, right? And end the three timelines. And also the last thunder that announces the coming of Yahusha. That Yahusha tells his people that he is soon to come. So we must establish, we must be clear with the establishment of the connections between the thunders, the plagues, and the timelines of Daniel chapter 12. We can go over it again. Right. We see that the thunders are taking place, or rather they are initiated by an oath. Both the thunders and the timelines of Daniel chapter 12 are initiated by an oath that is rendered by the messengers, right? Right. One is standing on the sea and on the land. The other is standing on the waters, right? Right. Whilst these places where they are standing are very similar as well. When you go into it, you are going to see that where these two messengers are standing is exactly the same spaces that we find also in the timelines of Daniel chapter 12. Let's look at the thunder number 1. So we say these thunders, they initiate or they start timelines and they end timelines. Let's look at the thunder number 1. The first thunder is proclaimed here, right? It is the United States National Sunday Law. The United States National Sunday Law is the first thunder. And it reads thus in Daniel chapter 12 verse 12, Blessed or Barakah is he that waiteth and cometh to the 1,305 and 30 days. So there is a blessing announced to those that come to the beginning of this timeline, 1,335. Because if they wait and endure, they wait within the range of this timeline. They endure what is going to be endured, right? But at the end of this timeline, Yahuwah rewards them by giving them a blessing which comes right at the end of the timeline. Are you getting it? So things to note. This timeline comes with a blessing, right? At its end. And this blessing also ends the timeline. This blessing that is this voice of Yahuwah must be countering an act by the devil, a curse that the devil has put on Yahuwah's people. Now, that's what we need to find out. What is the curse that the devil has put on Yahuwah's people that Yah must counter and to end this? Because the curse initiates the count of the 1,335 days, right? And when that curse initiates it, it must be cut, and it is going to be cut at the end of these days. But we need to find out. So, what is the barakah or the blessing countering? What is the case that starts this timeline for it to end with a barakah? In Revelation 13, USA is exposed as the power that will suspend religious liberty by legislating national laws of worship. Right. 13 verse 11 reads thus, and I beheld. Okay, maybe before I read 11, let me read verse 5. And there was given unto him, Revelation 13 verse 5, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things, right? And blasphemies, and the power was given unto him to continue 42 months. Of course, 42 months is the same timeline as this, right? But the aspect that I want from this verse is that Scripture is saying he was given power, right? He was given, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things, right? So this system, this beast system, has been given a mouth that speaks. Now, how does a nation speak? How does a beast speak? It speaks by the authority and the power invested in its laws. So when a government has got laws, it speaks by its laws. Now, when you go to 13 verse 11, Revelation 13 verse 11 says, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. So there is a beast that comes out of the earth, right? And there is another beast that comes out of the sea or out of the waters. Now, when you look at the beast that comes out of the earth, none qualifies to be called the beast that comes out of the earth except the United States of America. Right? The United States of America is the only system that qualifies to be the beast that comes out of the earth. Now, the earth is the opposite of the sea. And we saw that when the beast that comes out of the sea, it is coming out of a very populated area. For the seas or the waters are multitudes. So the first beast is sitting upon multitudes. But this second beast is coming out of a place that is sparsely populated. So the book of Revelation chapter 11 says, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. So this beast that comes out of the earth speaks like a dragon. In other words, it makes laws, devilish laws, right? Now, what does the devil want? What does the dragon want? It makes laws that will prop up the worship of the devil, right? Satan is the one that must be worshipped. And what laws is the United States going to make? Remember, Trump in his campaign motto was going to give the Christian church power as such as it has never been. And we know that the laws that Trump and his government are making are laws that are policies that it gives voice to the beast that was wounded, but now is being healed. And the healing of that beast is coming as a result of the United States enacting laws, Sunday laws, and laws of worship that gives authority or that gives healing to the papal system. So verse 12 says, and he exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. So the healing of papal supremacy will create second supremacy, right? So that healing is the thunder, is the first thunder. Before second papal supremacy comes up, there must be a healing that must take place. That healing is initiated by laws that prop up Catholicism, right? It is the United States government that is going to make those laws that prop up Catholicism. So the initiating of these laws kick-starts the 1,335 days, which laws Yahuwah will terminate at the end of the 1,335 days. Revelation 13:12, 13:13. It says, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. Beloved, this is not a Mickey Mouse miracle. So those whose belief is centered on miracles rather than on righteousness and truth, they are going to be easily deceived because they've never loved the truth. What they are interested in is just miracles. And the devil is going to perform miracles. It's only one thing that the devil will not do. That is obeying Yahuwah. That is accepting his Torah. Accepting the commandments of Yah. Accepting the instructions of Yahuwah of true worship and righteous living. That the devil will never do. But any other things the devil might want to do, might mimic to want to do that, as long as he can draw you to himself, Satan is going to do anything so that you may follow him. So those that have never loved the truth and have never desired to obey, they are going to be swept away by the wave, by the tide of miracles that the devil is going to perform. These are not Mickey Mouse miracles. He maketh fire come down from heaven to the earth in the sight of men. And he deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. And so the United States is busy creating an image of the beast. Right? Now, what entails the beast? Okay, we know the beast, in it you find both religious and political power, right? Vested in one entity. In other words, Roman Catholicism is the beast power. It took powers from the Caesars of pagan Rome and vested those powers upon themselves. And thus the Bishop of Rome became also the Caesar. And that structure of rulership is the same structure that is being created in the United States. And even now, as we speak, the Christian church has been given an office in the White House. In other words, they are trying to create a union of church and state to rule the United States. So that ruling structure is mimicking what is found in the composite beast, in the first beast, which has got religio-political power. And the other thing that we should take note of is that the Christian church, Catholicism, and so therefore you see that what the Christian church in the States is doing and wants is exactly the interests of Roman Catholicism. Thus, they are on the way to create Papal Supremacy number 2. And so, Scripture says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. Now, how do you give life to the image of? Because the image of the beast, or the daughter of Papa Rome, is the Christian church in the United States, right? Now, that's the image of the beast. The image of the beast is the union of church and the state in the United States as it is found in the ancient Papa Rome, right? That is what is happening here. So the civil power, the state power, is the one that gives power to the what? To the image of the beast. It is the one that gives life to the image of the beast. It is the one that gives authority to the image of the beast. That the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Right? The image, which is also the sign, right, of the beast, is not limited to the structure. It's not limited to mother and daughter. The image or the sign is also the day of worship, which is also called the mark. Right? So what the Christian church wants here, the day of worship that it wants here, is exactly as the sign that the Papa Rome wants, right? So both of them, they want the same thing. The image of the beast is doing the bidding of the first beast, the composite beast. It says, and he causes, okay, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, that is making laws, right? And it caused that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So they make laws, right? This is happening already, this is happening here, right? And when it happens here, it is by the influence of the United States. But here, the first thunder is dealing with the healing of Papa Rome, right? And that no man might buy or sell, that is happening later. USA is the only country mentioned in Revelation 13. It is the United States that starts off by enacting laws of worship that give power to the authority and the authority to the Christian church in the United States, thus empowering the image of the beast, the false prophet, and the false prophet, thus ultimately renders power to the first beast, papal supremacy number 2. This, beloved, is already happening. That was Trump's campaign motto to the church in the United States. He said he, Trump, was going to give the church power such as they have never experienced. He promised to enact laws that will force worship every Sunday. Let's look at the second thunder. The second thunder establishes second papal supremacy in order for it to be able to persecute. Daniel chapter 12 verse 11 says, and from the time that the daily shall be taken away, and the abomination